David then. David Fingerhut, originally from Schenectady, has been taking photographs for over 50 years. He specializes in nature photography and enjoys photographing the American landscape. His photographs have been shown in 16 countries at exhibits sponsored by the Photographic Society of America and has been designated a star exhibitor in both nature and color photography. Dave is a past president and director of the Colonial Camera Club outside Boston. He has judged photography competitions for 16 different camera clubs in New England, and his photographs have appeared in books, calendars, and magazines. Since moving to Saratoga Springs 5 years ago, David still does his own matting and framing and sells his framed photographs at outdoor art exhibits, events, and local exhibits. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, hello everybody. This is the last monthly competition for assigned topics for this season, so good luck to everyone. First assigned topic is, row of things. So we have 47 entries, 5 places, 5 honorable mentions.
A lot of entries.
Yes, let me share my screen here. Is Autumn Sequence by Marty Bannon.
Yeah, so I like the fact that you caught these 4 trees in different, not all 4 seasons, but different times along the fall season. It fits the category well. I think that's probably the egg or something in Albany, but I like the photo. It does fit the category well.
Next up is Pumpkins, Marguerite Hill.
I like the diagonal here, going from the lower left to the upper right. I keep looking back and forth for some kind of center of interest here, but it certainly fits the category well, and I like the way you have them framed, and I like the fence there on the left too.
Next is Corvette History Lined Up, Dow Smith.
I like the exposure here, and I like the composition and the fact that you have the lime rock down at the bottom perfectly centered at the bottom of the frame. It's a very interesting picture. It looks like it was taken from from a bridge just in front of all these cars. And I think this also fits the category well.
Next is Marble Towers, Thomas Whitmore.
This one's a good composition, good exposure. I think it needs a little more interest, something that your eye can settle on. Something to, besides just the 3 columns would have helped it. But I like the way that the powers are set off by the dark sky.
Next is Bizarro Birds on Wires, Linda Tomasulo.
I like this. I think I remember last year picking one of these of the birds on the wires for might have been 1st or 2nd place. This one I thought also fits the category well. I thought the birds are just a little too washed out or white, but I do like the spacing between the wires and the way you have it at a slight diagonal instead of just going horizontally across the screen.
Next is Water Drops on a CD, Joe Catronio.
This one looks like it took quite a bit of time to put together, and I like the way it's composed. I'm not sure about the edges there, what you've got going on there, but I like the way the droplets go from larger to smaller from the right to the left, and I like the way it's offset by the colors too.
Next up is Photo Books, Sean Sullivan.
Certainly fits the category well, and I actually enjoyed looking through these one at a time. I like the way you have it centered, and it's a good, nice composition. It fits the category perfectly.
Next up is Rotting Fence, Joan Heffler.
This one took me quite a while to see exactly what I was looking at, but after I looked at it for a long time, when I went back, it came right up. I could see exactly what I was seeing here. It fits the category well, and I think it might be a little too busy with all the stuff going on in the background. If these poles were against a more plain or less busy background, I think it might have been a little bit better.
Next up is Family Affair, Linda Thomasulu.
Well, this is perfect for the category. I think it's a very good exposure. The only thing, of course, which I know you have little control over, is it would be better if they were coming towards you instead of seeing the rear of all the geese. But I know there's not much you can do about that. But I do like the composition with the reeds up on the reflection of the reeds up at the top and the ripples on the bottom.
Next up is Cannery Row, Sean Sullivan.
This is a nice exposure, very sharp, and it's also very straight. I like the way it's very straightened out and very even across the screen. I'm wondering if maybe it would have been better without the 4 rows, maybe just three rows, or maybe kind of zero in on maybe more detail here instead of trying to get so much into the picture frame.
Next up is Blades in Wait, Sally Wilsey.
This one I thought did fit the category well. It's pretty good exposure, maybe a little bit overexposed, but I like the depth of field you have here where you can see the sharpness on all the blades, and the way you've got it composed in the screen. It's a nice photo, and I like the fact that it's black and white.
Up is Sun on Sun, Janice Pritchett.
Well, I liked best about this was the sun that you've got, and the way it bursts over the trees like that. I think what I might have done here is try to get close up to one of the flowers and try to get something in the extreme foreground, and then have a wide angle going out from the one or two or a couple flowers in the foreground, instead of showing the whole field like this. And I do like having the people up there, so you have something to, some kind of a additional center of interest here.
Next up is A Humble Nod to Theobald, Tricia Garrett.
Well, I like the cake, looks nice, and I like the fact that there's that fork there. Somebody started eating one of them. It fits the category well. I think it's a little, the color I think is a little bit dull. I think if you had brightened it up a little bit, it might have been just a little more brighter, I think would have helped the photo.
Next up is Swan Street Sequence, Marty Bannon.
Another of the the architectural towers here. I like the slight diagonal that you have going here. I think maybe it could have been even better if it was maybe a portrait picture, vertical picture, and less of the sky and more of the towers, maybe running dramatically across the screen from the lower left to the upper right, instead of cutting the photo in half with half of it sky.
Next up is Hoodoo Formation, Joan Heffler.
Yeah, so this is my favorite park. I was actually at Zion 3 weeks ago and didn't go to Bryce because it was 7 degrees. But I like the photo. I kind of question how well it fits the category. I understand the hoodoos are in rows like that, but I like the scene. It looks a little bit like not a lot of detail, like it's low resolution or something, but I do like the scene, and it does fit the category. It's nice.
Next up is door number 3, Rich Schreibstein.
This was interesting. It's too bad it's his rear sticking out of the outhouse like that, but I'm glad you have something to break up the not just have the scene of the 5 outhouses. A little high contrast there. It would have been nice if, too bad it wasn't a cloudier day, so it wouldn't be such high contrast, but it's an interesting photo.
Next up is tic-tac-toe 3 in a row, Jana Kaywood.
Well, I see the the row here, which is the blades on this this leaf. But I just think there's too much else in it that's just out of focus and doesn't really add anything to the photo. I think maybe if you had taken a real macro shot of that drop of water on the left and maybe some of the points of the leaf here, it might have been a little better than having so much of it that's out of focus that you can't really tell what it is, or you can tell what it is, but it doesn't really add much to the photo.
Next up is Holy Vineyard, Dan Steen.
I assume the row is the terraced farming here. I like the scene. I like the exposure of it. And it might have been a little better if you could have gotten the front of the church, but I guess you can't do that in this scene. But it's a nice exposure, a nice color, and nice composition.
Next up is Row, Kim Koza.
This one was interesting. It certainly fits the category. The problem I had with it was when you first look at the picture, your eye immediately goes to that center dark piece, like the 4th one from the left. That's immediately what you look to, but it's not in focus. And I think it would have been better if you had focused on that and made the ones way over to the left and in the back be more be out of focus. But I like the exposure and I like how it does fit the category well, but it's just what you chose to focus on is not what you tend to look at first in this photo.
Next up is Waiting for Spring, Paula Keefe.
This was a nice photo of the 3 horses. And I also like the background. I like the mountains. I think the coloring in it seems a little washed out or green or so. There's something about the coloring in it that didn't look right here, but it certainly fits the category, and he did a good job with catching the 3 horses lined up like that.
Next is Dish It Up, Gloria Jakubowski.
Well, I like the saturated colors here. I think maybe if you had gotten over to the left and could have gotten more of the design of the plates instead of just all the edges of the plates, I think it might have helped it. The part on the bottom is a little hard to tell. I see it's cups, but it's maybe some more depth of field might have helped it. If you could have gotten some of those cups at the bottom in focus too, or a little sharper.
Next up is Waterfall Row, Phil Olivo.
I like the exposure here, and I like the fact that you didn't put that line right in the center of the photo. If you probably saw the movie recently, the Spielberg movie, where they say don't put the horizon in the center. I like the way this is divided into these 3 sections, and it does fit the category well. It's a nice photo.
Next up is Waiting for the fall, Sally Wilson.
Waiting for the fall, yeah. This looks like it took a little while to set up too. I think it's nicely done. I like the colors in it, but I think the exposure is a little dull. I think it could have been brightened up a little to add a little more to it. Maybe something could have been done in Photoshop with shadows and highlights or something to brighten up the colors a little bit more.
Next up is Perched, Claudia Jakubowski.
I like this one, and if I could have done 6 honorable mentions, this would have been an honorable mention. I like the way it's just set up here, and I like the sky, the way the sky was done here with those, the break in the clouds there, and the way you caught the pigeons on the edge on one side of the roof. It's a nice composition, set up very well.
Next up is Jockeys in a Row, Howard Schrechter.
So I live 5 minutes from here, actually, and I think this is nice. I like the way it goes across the screen, the way you have it there. I think if you had maybe went down to the other side and took it in this direction, it might have been a little better with the jockeys facing you instead of facing the other way. But I like the background's a little bit busy, but I know there's not much you can do about that. But it's a nice exposure.
Next is On the Rocks, Paul O'Keefe.
This was also a nice exposure. I think it's questionable how well this fit the category. I understand that it's a row to 3 rocks, but I think it just barely fits the category. But I like the exposure, and I like the way the reeds surround the rock, and the colors that you have here too are nice.
Next up is Who Let the Dogs Out, Shauna Kaywood.
I think there was a lot of potential here. It's too bad that the people are all like, all looks like they're setting up for something, but not there yet. I think if you could have somehow gotten them all lined up really nicely, it would have done better here. But I think it's a really interesting photo. But I don't think the timing was exactly right.
Next up is The Hidden Beauty of a Musical Masterpiece, Neil Shapiro.
Very nice exposure here on this. And it must be a difficult photo to take like this, but I like it. Certainly fits the category well. A lot of rows, and I like the fact that it was done in black and white too. It's nice, very nice composition.
Next up is One of These Is Not Like the Others.
Yeah, one doesn't have a pickle. I don't know. I think this one was a little. The coloring I thought was a little bit dull, like not really bright enough, and there's kind of distractions in the background. I think maybe if you had just taken 3 of them and gotten a more constant or plainer background, I think it might have helped it.
Next up is Pigeons, Joe Catronio.
So this one, I think the pigeons I like the exposure on it. I like the fact that you can see some detail in them on this one. It fits the category well. Unfortunately, it's just fills this very small part of the screen. It's kind of a lot of wasted space here, but I know there's not much you can do about that. But I do like the exposure and the lighting on this too, and the colors.
Next up is Clothespins, Donna Funk.
This one thought was nicely done. I just think that it's kind of dark, and I think maybe a little more depth of field might have helped it too, rather than just having the one clothespin be anywhere near in focus. I think it might have helped it if you had used a little more depth of field and maybe made it a little brighter.
Next up is Pre-Grid, Dow Smith.
This one's composed well. I like the colors. I think, and this one also could have been a little bit brighter. It's a little underexposed, I think. I know it's difficult with all the bright colors that, in the car in front, probably cause the meter to go a little bit close. But I do like the composition here and the way you've got the cars lined up.
Next up is Radiator, Kim Koza.
This one certainly fits the category well too. It's a nice exposure. I think it needs some kind of center of interest, something to break up the the repeating pattern here, something that your eye can settle on in it. But it's a nice photo.
Next up is Jockeying for a Spot, Howard Schechter.
I like the way this was done because I like that the fact that it's going down the center like that. The problem is the right side, doesn't really add much to it. I think what you should have done here was made a vertical photo, a portrait, cut off from this guy in the yellow, his left shoulder starting there, or his right shoulder starting there, and at the start of the sidewalk, and make it into a vertical photo instead of including all of Union Avenue like that. And the jockeys in the background on the left.
Next up is Crazy Hats, Alan Wiggins.
Very colorful photo. I think it does fit the category. I think it's just kind of busy, which I understand is what you were trying to do here, get all the colors in it, but your eye keeps wandering around looking at all the color. Which may be what you wanted. So, but it is a nice exposure and nice bright colors.
Up is a Row of Rose, Janice Pritchett.
So this one I found very interesting. It certainly fits the category very, very well. It's another one where you keep looking back and forth on it and trying to see a pattern, and I see the pattern, but something that that you can land your eye on here is what I think it needs. I like all the colors that you have in it though.
Next up is Lit, Elena Kesey.
This one I also thought fit the category very well. It's very creative what you did here, and I like the exposure. And I like the way that the light columns are set off against the dark background.
Okay, our honorable mentions. First up, Paged Knowledge, Neil Shapiro.
I think that this gate or whatever it is in front of the books really adds to the interest. I think the fact that you've got everything so sharp here, I think, makes it a really nice photo, and you've got nice old books here, so it makes it a very interesting photo. But I do like the way this gate or whatever it is sets off the books.
Next honorable mention, Garbage Day, Trisha Garrett.
I like this. Looks like you took it specifically for thinking you probably took this specifically for this competition. Otherwise, I don't know why you would take a picture of the garbage cans, but I think this is great. I think it fits the category perfectly. And it's just interesting. And you keep looking down the line and look at the snow. It's all exposed very well too, which is, as you know, it's not easy to do with snow because even the building is exposed well and the snow is exposed perfectly well.
Next honorable mention, New York City food vendor, Alan Wiggins.
What I liked about this was how it fit the category. You've got the row up at the top, way up at the top of the sandwiches, then the row of the Coke cans of soda, and then the row of the hot dogs. Down at the bottom, the row of the ketchup and mustard container. So I think it was pretty creative how well this fit the category. And I guess it's a row of the pretzels too. But I think it's an interesting picture where there's a lot to look at, a lot of interesting things to look at here.
Next honorable mention, birds in a row, Greg Effner.
I guess what I like about this is two things: the perfect exposure and the placement of the birds in the frame, and the fact that they're, not straight in a line. I think that it is a row, but it's, it's nice the way it's filled the frame, and you've got a perfect sky to offset the birds here too, and you've got them all facing the camera, which is not easy to do.
And our last honorable mention, Eyes and Spikes, Thomas Whitmore.
I like the color here of the rust at the bottom, and I also like the fact that this is a very wide angle where there's that first railroad tie is so close to the camera. I like the fact that you've got it wide angle with those up close, so you can, look at them up close, and then the whole background of all the other ties that kind of go at an angle, and a lot of color in there too, and the reeds or sticks sticking up to break up the pattern. Nice exposure too.
Okay, and our winners in fifth place, bicycles, Donna Funk.
So I liked how well this fit the category of a row. Looking through the center of the, I thought it was just very creative to see this as fitting the category down the center of the wheels of the bikes, all in a row like this. And the exposure is perfect. Very big depth of field, as you can see, showing that priority writing in the foreground, and even the dock piers way in the background are perfect exposure. I just think it's very well done. I like the colors a lot too.
Next, in fourth place, blue tables and tan benches, Phil Olivo.
I liked how dramatic this is with the very saturated colors, and the way, unlike a lot of the, as most of the rows pictures that we've been seeing have been across the screen. Well, this is going into the screen, a row of picnic tables, and then a row of benches, the tan benches at the top of the screen. And I like the way it leads your eye through the screen to those benches. Nice, perfect exposure.
In third place, 3x2, Elena Kesey.
I really like the composition here and the lighting, the way that you've got very soft lighting on the glasses here. And I like what you did with the composition, framing it perfectly so that the reflections, and the glasses are all framed perfectly within the frame. And it really sets off against the white background.
Second place, windows in a row, Greg Effner.
I like the not the color, but the lighting here, how you go from the black on the left. You've got all kinds of light here in the black and white scale. And I think that person walking along there is really what adds to this photo, the fact that it's not just the windows, but your eye goes to the person there, and it's like a leading line down to where she's standing. It's a nice exposure and very good composition.
And in first place, Railroad Station, Poughkeepsie, New York, Rich Schreibstein.
So what I liked here is two things. The exposure was probably pretty hard to do, but it came out very well. And all the things you've got in a row here. You've got the lights on the right-hand side, you've got the lights on the ceiling, and you've got the benches, the 2 rows of benches. So I think it fits the category perfectly. And it's a nice leading line down to the person sitting there. If the person wasn't sitting there, it might not have been as nice a photo, but I think you did a great job here with a nighttime exposure and the composition. Nice job.
Congratulations, everyone. Great shots. Let's move on to the next category, which was cold as ice. I believe. Yep. And in this, we have 34 entries, 5 places, 5 honorable mentions. First up, Crystalis, Neil Shapiro.
Well, it certainly fits the category of cold as ice perfectly. I just think it's too busy, and I'm not going to say messy, but it's just, I think if you had focused on something a little better, defined composition, I think it might have helped it, rather than you've got so much going on here.
Next up is Frozen Treat, Dan Steen.
So I heard a pileated woodpecker this afternoon outside just before this meeting. Obviously you caught this bird very well, very sharp photo. But the composition is, it's more of a picture of the birdhouse. More than half the photo is the birdhouse, and you don't see that, the difficult part is you don't see the whole beak of the woodpecker. This was another one where I think if you had brought it into Photoshop and brought out the highlight, highlights, the shadows a little more, so you can see more detail in the feathers and the black parts of the bird, it might have helped it. Well, it would help it because I did that in Photoshop and looked at it. But I think the composition, it would have been better if you had cut out some of the birdhouse, maybe made it a vertical and cut out the right half of the photo.
Next up is Icy Water Drop, Donna Funk.
It's a colorful photo. I think it might have helped it if you got more in focus here. You've got that little piece in the upper left sharp, but most of the photo is just out of focus colors, which is nice, but I think it would have been better if there was something a little more of it was sharp, so you could see more detail in it and see more of what you were looking at.
Next up is Winter Fairgrounds, Rich Schreibstein.
I like this photo. I just thought it was a little busy with there's so much in it. The power lines, the shed on the right. And I was just thinking if you had zoomed in or gotten up close to the back wheel of that tractor and kept some of the snow so it still fit the category, but try not to get so much in the photo, like the power lines, but just do something more selective in it. I think it would have been better.
Next up is Blizzard, Marty Bannon.
So this one I had a difficult time with seeing how it was cold as ice, and even blizzard. I didn't really understand what I was looking at here. It's dramatic colors. I like the way that it's sharp at the top, so you do see some detail there. But I just had a difficult time with exactly what I was looking at here for blizzard.
Next up is Winter Drive, Joe Catronio.
Another nice winter scene. It's cold as ice. It looks like it. Um, I I think down this, having the road down the center like that kind of breaks the photo in two. I think it needs something else to draw your attention other than having the road be the main part of the photo. Like maybe getting up close to one of these trees and somehow framing the road in the branches of the trees, something like that, I think might have helped it.
Next up is Frozen Bubble, Janice Pritchett.
This one is cold as ice. It fits it well. It's a nice photo. I think it's a little too blue. I think if you had corrected the photo and made the snow white instead of blue, I think it might have helped it. And I also liked how you got that sparkle up at the top of the bubble. I'm not actually sure what this is, what I'm looking at here, but it looks nice, and I like the way you've got that sparkle up at the top of it.
And next up is Shark Teeth, Janet Haywood.
I like the diagonal layout of this, and I like the way it's offset against the brown fence. It's nice color and fits the category perfectly. I think it's nice.
Next up is Brr, Sean Sullivan.
Yeah, I like this composition too. And you caught it without, it's nice with the houses all covered with snow and the trees covered with snow. And I also like the way it's offset against the clouds. It looks like it might have been, I don't know if it was taken with a cell phone, but it just doesn't look like there's a lot of detail there in the branches of the tree or the bushes, but it's a nice composition and beautiful day too.
Next up is The Interview, Phil Levo.
So I was going to ask if this was meant for this category, but I'm guessing that the interviewer is being cold as ice, but that's just my guess. I don't know. It's interesting, and it makes you wonder what's going on here. And it's a nice exposure, and I just wish I knew more of the background of what this was. And unless you look closely at the interviewer's face, it's hard to tell how this meets the category.
Next up is Fire and Ice, Sean Sullivan.
This was interesting. It was a nice idea, putting the ice around the candle like that. I like the way it turned it yellow. It's kind of a bullseye. It might have been better if it was up in a third, in the top right or left third of the photo, the flame, but it's nice exposure, nice composition, and nice sharpness.
Next up is The Snow Queen, Neil Shapiro.
Yeah, this one is also caught on a perfect morning. Trees completely covered with snow, and I like the pattern of it here, but I think it needs something more, like more of a center of interest somewhere, something in the tree or something on the ground, something to draw your eye. But it is a nice exposure and nice pattern.
Next up is The Glow of Winter, Lena Kesey.
Looks like it might be Lake George. It's a nice silhouette, nice portrait. And I like where the person's positioned in the frame, and fits the category very well. It's nice.
Next up is Twigs on Ice, Marty Bannon.
I like the swirls in the ice, even where it looks like there aren't branches. I don't know. I wonder how they got there, how those swirls go around the center of the of the snow and the ice. I think it's very interesting. It fits the category well, and it's nice exposure.
Next up is Snowbird, Linda Thomasula.
This one's a nice picture of the bird. The coloring is nice. Might be a little too green. I don't know if the bird is actually that. I think the whole frame might be a little too green, but I didn't really see what was going on with the bird's beak there. I don't know if it had snow on its beak or was stuck it into ice or what, but it is a nice photo, and I like how you can see the snow coming down too.
Next up is Ice Abstract, Claudia Jakubowski.
I like how you put this black frame around the photo. It's nice. This is fits the category perfectly, as you can see. I think it needs something to settle your eye on. I think it's a lot going on here and a lot of different designs. And maybe if you had zoomed in a little bit and tried to get maybe less in it, it might have been more dramatic.
Next up is Nature's Artwork, Sally Wilsey.
This is a nice design. I like that it's very, very artistic the way you did this. The background color, unfortunately, I wish it was more of a natural color in the background, like green or, like color of grass green. I mean, but it's a nice design that you got here, and it fits the category very well.
Next up is Unfrozen Pond, Linda Thomasula.
Well, it's certainly cold as ice. I just think that it needs more of a design here. Something, maybe if you had gotten just the 4 leaves in and cut out the rest of it, it might have been better. But I just think it's another one that's a little bit too busy, too much going on here.
Next up is Frozen Ashtray, Kim Koza.
I like the design here. I like the cigarette butts in the, in the background. It took me a while to figure out what I was looking at because I hadn't looked at the title at first. But I do like the color, and it fits the category well. It's a nice exposure.
Next is Icicle Hands, Sally Wilsey.
This one I thought was a good exposure and a good composition. Got just about the right amount of ice in it. I like the fact that you kept some of the bottom, that you show the bottom, so it shows kind of a scale, not a scale, but you see what's going on here. That the water ran down these twigs and froze against the lake or the river. It's a nice design.
Up is Cool Bird, Greg Effner.
This is nice. I like how sharp you've got the bird here. You can see, the whole bird is very sharp. Now you've got snow in here, so it was a snowy day, and I like the exposure of it too. And it does look like it's cold as ice. Nice photo.
Next up is Splash, Jana Kaywood.
Well, I thought this was perfect timing. Probably took a couple tries to get it just right, but I thought that was interesting. I didn't really like the background, the red background. I thought something more natural might have, not natural, but not so bright might have helped it. And if it was darker, it would have, the splashes would have shown up a little bit better against a dark background instead of a red background. But I like how you have the colored ice cubes arranged around the glass too.
Next is Set Me Free, Rich Schreibstein.
fits the category very well, and it's a good exposure. Uh, it's kind of centered a little bit. I think if you had put it down in the corner a little bit more down a little bit, it might have been better in the rule of thirds instead of right in the center on the right. But it's a nice idea, nice exposure.
Next is cool as ice, is cold as ice, Marguerite Hill.
I kind of like how you have this framed with the fuzzy background in the corners, and it's an interesting pattern, and it's well exposed and fits the category very, very well. It is a nice pattern.
And honorable mentions. First up, Pond in Winter, Elena Kesey.
I thought this was a beautiful scene. I like the way it's kind of light too. Light, and the brown trees on the left I thought were really nice. I think that adds to it, the brown trees as opposed to all gray. And of course, I like the leading line of the water going up towards the bridge. It's a nice composition and nice, very good exposure.
Next honorable mention, Sunflowers on Ice, Donna Funk.
So I thought this looked like a Van Gogh. I like the artistic nature of it and the fact that you've got just two flowers in and this is what I meant about just centering on just a couple things and not trying to get so much in the picture. I think you did a good job here in the frozen petals. The color of the frozen petals show very nice in the ice.
Next honorable mention is Ice Tree, Claudia Jakubowski.
Thought this was very creative, what you came up with here. Just recognizing the pattern of the thawed ice or the cracks, whatever they are in the ice. It's a really nice photo.
Next is Ice Dance, Patricia Garrett.
I like the title of this, and I like what you've got here. The only suggestion I might make is to maybe zoom in a little bit more on this ice and take up more of the frame with it, instead of just having it down in the bottom third of the photo, maybe making that 2/3 of the photo and making the background, which is not much there, be the top third of the photo. But I thought it was very creative what you did here.
Last honorable mention, On Edge, Patricia Garrett.
I like the colors here of the ducks, and I like the leading line you've got going across the screen, and it's interesting those footprints going up to the top of the screen too. I like that, but we'll see. I like the colors of the ducks against the plain white background here.
Now winners, in fifth place, The Polar Plunge, Alan Wiggins.
Fits the category perfectly. At first, I wasn't going to pick this as a winner until I looked at it a few times and noticed that woman on the right, the lower right, in pain, which really made it fit the category really well. But I think it's nice timing here, the way you froze everybody here and got everyone's expressions. Good job.
In third place, or fourth place, I'm sorry. Wish I Had a River, Janice Pritchett.
I like the composition and the colors here. The blue in the river and the S curve is really nice, leading up to the forest and the blue sky, and how you've got so much detail, so much snow on the trees in the center of the photo, or in the upper third of the photo. So I just thought it was very well composed and good exposure, which could have been a difficult exposure to do.
Third place, Stem and Leaf, Kim Koza.
Well, I like the composition here and the leading line of the stem up to the leaf. And I don't know, I tend to like sharp pictures, and this is a sharp photo. The only thing I might have done differently here was hold the camera more crooked and make it diagonal, with the stem going from the lower left of the photo up to the upper right, with the leaf against the upper corner of the photo instead of in the center.
Second place, Winter, Joe Catronio.
I just like this scene. Maybe it's just because it's the kind of photos I like to take. It looks like it's snowing, and I like the way you've got it laid out. I like the shape, that the extreme panoramic view that you have here, and the exposure of the trees, the way they're placed in the frame, all different brightnesses of the trees. It's not brightnesses, but the ones in the background are more faded out. That's what I like about it.
And our first place winner, Braving the Storm, Greg Effler.
So this one I thought was perfect for cold as ice. It's snowing there, and I like the way you've done kind of a time exposure of the snow going across the screen, but yet you kept the bird perfectly sharp there. You couldn't have gotten any sharper than this. So I like the pose. I like the way it's facing the screen. I like the colors in the bird, and just the way it's set off against the snowy background.
Congratulations, everyone. Great images. Thank you very much, Dave, for your commentary.
You're welcome.
Judging for us. Anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourselves and ask away.
So I have a question. The interview photo. Did I get that right?
Phil's not here.
Oh, so
I
does
got a
anybody
feeling
know?
he uploaded to the wrong category.
So the interviewer wasn't being cold as ice?
I don't think so.
Okay, I was going to email you and ask, but I don't know.
It happens now and then.
Yeah, okay.
People are not paying attention when they select which category.
Yeah.
I realized when you,
see if any.
Dave, I realized when you looked at my ice photo that no one saw what I saw in that photo. I saw an upside down insect like a cicada, and I don't think anyone else, I don't think you saw that at all. That's why you said it was busy, but I see the shape in there. I'm just curious. If you look at it again, tell me if you see it, or if I just, maybe I was on
Yeah,
drugs.
I thought it was a locust, Neil.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, some kind of bug upside
But
down.
not a cicada.
All right, I will look at it.
I don't know my bugs very good. Well, Richard, so.
Well, they're big in the winter. I see a lot of infestation of winter cicadas.
But I never really even thought about the fact that when you look at something like that, it's very subjective, and someone else might not see that. So I can understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, look what happened to my outhouse picture. It was probably the iconic outhouse picture I've had in my career.
It's probably their best outhouse
I think
ever.
it is my best outhouse shot.
Do you specialize in them or something?
Yeah, I do outhouses a lot. It's
Okay.
hard. Yeah.
I think he was really trying to take a picture of the person and he was just slow on the trigger.
Yeah. I was waiting for somebody to come out is what I was waiting for, but didn't
But
happen.
you gotta just hang out by outhouses more, Richard.
Well, you can only do it for a very short while.
Yeah, how long did it take for the police to arrive?
Yeah, you were not supposed to ask those questions, Alan. This is why street shooting is so hard. Just people don't understand. You want to take a picture of an outhouse and boom. You get
Somebody
accused-
comes out just in time.
You just get accused of all kinds of things.
Would have been funny if it was a policeman coming out.
Well, maybe funny to you.
Well, then maybe we should have like police photos
Yeah.
for one of the contests. Yeah, that would get Richard your photo, your profile, and your front
When I get arrested, I'll
mug
bring a
photo. Mug
photographer.
photo.
Yeah. Ah. Good job, Dave, particularly in that first category. You did really
Thank you.
well.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing just because Richard won that, so I know.
Oh.
I know Richard.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, there's that. Yeah. Yeah. Come back anytime, Dave.
Thanks.
No, yeah, it was a good job. Good commentary overall, David. I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you, David.
All right. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, everybody, don't forget to get your general monochrome in by Saturday midnight, and the Lou Rickett creativity images, have them in by a week from this Saturday at midnight.
Everyone enjoy the
Thank
great
you.
weather we've been getting.
All right.
Have a good weekend,
All right.
everybody.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye.
Thank you, David.
Yeah,
Good
everybody.
night, everybody.